Mr. Oliver, a very happy new year to you.
Jim, Simon, happy new year to you both.
Very happy new year to you. What are you looking over your glasses at like him?
What are you doing?
I've had the dubious pleasure of seeing your gormless mug earlier on in the week, so you don't need to wish me happy new year.
Yeah, I know, but you just give me a stare off there like we were going to war.
I was just looking at you.
No, it was a bit more intense than that.
No, it wasn't. I was looking at you, wondering what was going to come out of your mouth, what I was going to learn from it.
Last time I saw you was you were sitting in the furthest row back on a very large plane coming in from Riyadh to London.
Yes.
After we went out to see Usyk beat Fury again in Saudi Arabia, just the other side of New Year there. When you look at it, Spence, 2024... first undisputed fight in 2 decades, Fury Usyk 2. We saw Taylor Serrano, Beterbiev, Bivol, Joshua Ngannou, the rise of Daniel Dubois. Dubois beat Joshua 5v5, Queensberry versus Matchroom. I mean, 2025 is going to have to go some to eclipse it.
Yeah, it really is, and that is tough to beat, isn't it? But I do believe that will happen. I think that the fights are going to get bigger, they're going to get better. Yet we've got a new generation of heavyweights coming through, and probably the old generation now in the twilight. Your Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, all of those. But I think we're going to still get... I mean, look at the February 22nd card, topped by Bivol and Beterbiev. I mean, an incredible undercard. You look down there and you see like Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith down at the bottom of that card. You just look at it and just think, wow. Incredible. So that's probably the best show in boxing history. That's where we're going in 2025.
I think it's pretty tough, Simon, to eclipse the first undisputed fight in 2 decades. But do you think this year can outdo 2024?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility it can, because I think the ambition is probably not to stop there. With the golf money that's behind it, and the ambitions and the face of boxing now, which is being alluded to being Turkey Al-Sheikh, because he can walk in a room and make everybody curtail to what he wants, because he has the economic might to be able to do so. And it would appear the interest in the sport to want to make changes and to evolve it. So when you've got a card like February 22nd, no, it doesn't have the moniker of the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. But look at that fight card and look who's on it. And as Spencer alludes to, you've got a former 2-weight world champion in Callum Smith against the potential number one in his division, mandatory, light heavyweight in Josh Buatsi, fighting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because they're the bottom of the card.
Yeah.
That's how deep that card is.
If indeed we get these two in 2025, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua and Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr., what's the bigger fight?
I think the bigger fight's got to be the heavyweights, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. I mean, they both transformed the sport into the mainstream media, really, into the mainstream public as well. I mean, they've been brilliant for boxing as a whole. I think you've got to look at that. Like, heavyweight boxing is the pinnacle of sport, and I think that's always going to be, for the casual, that's always going to be the bigger fight. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. equally is a huge fight. With the stuff that Conor Benn's been through, and that was brought to the mainstream as well. And Chris Eubank Jr. and what with their fathers and their legacies, that's always going to be a huge fight. But I think that you got to look at the heavyweights as the biggest fight of the two.
I mean, they're getting towards the end of their career, so now they'll Spence.
Absolutely.
I mean, Benn Eubank Jr., is that not the better fight?
Well, Eubank Jr. is getting towards the end of his career now as well, and Conor Benn's now coming through. But yes, the heavyweights, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, getting towards the end of their careers, the twilight of their careers, and you say, is it a bigger fight than when it was 3, 4, 5 years ago? I would say probably because more people know them. They've got the history behind them. 2-time world heavyweight champions, both of them. That captures the public imagination. People will want to see that fight. That's an easy fight to sell. For me, that's the biggest fight out there.
Where do you stand in it, Simon? What's the bigger fight for you?
Oh, I think probably the heavyweights. I mean, I don't think you'll see Eubank. I think you'll see Benn versus Barrios for the WBC belt, and Eubank's got other directions to go in himself. I mean, look, I build it as the battle of the losers for Joshua and Fury, because as a matter of fact, I don't care who doesn't like it. They have both lost recent fights. It doesn't mean they're losers per se, because clearly they're not. They've got bank balances that most people can dream of, and they've got a list of achievements. As far as the fight is concerned, once upon a time, it had real jeopardy behind it, because these were two undefeated or at the top of their game fighters. Now, the argument is they've only been vanquished by one man. I would suggest there's been a decline in both of those fighters for a period of time. I didn't see the decline and anticipated that Fury would overcome Usyk, and that's not taking away from Usyk. I just felt there was more in Fury than is probably left. Joshua went through a rebuild. I wasn't on that train, That rebuild wasn't as quite as prevalent as I thought it was, albeit I did tip him to beat Dubois because I didn't think Dubois could execute. So as far as a spectacle, and we know metaphorically that you can sell sand to the in this world, and so with that in mind, I won't be surprised if people bill the Fury versus Joshua fight as a really big fight, because it has this propensity to be, because of the two guys that are in it, because of their legacies. But once upon a time, they were the two big beasts in the heavyweight division.
Right.
They're now also-rans. And if people like also-ran fights, which I do too, but then it has meaning.
But for the casual fan,
Also-ran fights.
but for the casual fan, they're gonna buy that, Simon, aren't they? Because
of course they are.
They're two big characters. They have transformed the sport of boxing, made it mainstream.
Yeah.
The pair of them. They brought boxing back when we was going through a time where boxing was quite low. Anthony Joshua, his story, Tyson Fury, and where he come from, and what he went through and stuff. You know, that was inspirational to many outside of the boxing world, and that's why I think it captures the imagination.
Possibly. I mean, I do think some of the things that come out of them, Tyson Fury's mouth drags it back into the gutter at times. But I also think that some of his achievements have been quite remarkable. And, he's come back and won fights and achieved things at times that I didn't think he could. Anthony Joshua, on the whole, has been a force for good. I think boxing has always been in the public psyche. I think it's recaptured its vigour, and it's now... But it's taken, let's get it right, put it to one side, all the guys that are running around backslapping themselves now, it's taken one other fella to do it. Mm-hmm. All these guys that have had Joshua and Fury for years couldn't make fights. So another guy's come in and taken away all the barriers to entry and made the fight Turkey Al Sheikh.
Yeah.
So this backslapping that's going on amongst everybody really needs to point in one direction. Everyone needs to walk up to him and say thank you.
Yeah. Well, one guy we know is going to feature in 2025 extremely prominently did the business again. World champion Jai Opetaia defended his IBF cruiserweight title, a 4th-round knockout win over David Nika. In Australia.
Some fight, that, wasn't it?
It was some fight and it was some finish. He demolished the New Zealander Nika. He's absolutely lethal, is Jai Opetaia. Is Alexander Usyk the only man Spence right now who could stop Opetaia in his tracks?
Well, Alexander Usyk is obviously up at heavyweight at the moment. If he come back down to cruiserweight, I had a great story actually with Jai Opetaia. I was out when we done the show out in Saudi. We went to the gala and I ended up on the table sitting next to him, speaking to him about his ambition, where he wants to go, what his dream is. Huh?
You were at a gala dinner.
Yeah,
he was a busboy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, full suit on. And all that
right.
stuff,
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Delivering the bread rolls.
And he was saying, listen, if Usyk comes down to cruiserweight, it would be the worst thing he ever does. I totally agree with him on that. We saw what happened to Roy Jones when he went up and down the weights. You're never the same fighter again once you try and bring that body weight back down. I think and for him to move up to heavyweight, if that happens, he wants to become undisputed cruiserweight champion first. By the time he gets up to heavyweight, will Usyk still be around? That's the $1 million question.
Do you think he naturally lends himself to going up to heavyweight?
Definitely.
Right? You do?
Yes, 100%. And that's something that's going to happen in the near future. He said he wants to clear up now. They're talking about the Ramirez fight next for the unification, and once he has that Ramirez fight and he does that, and we got Badu Jack, who's the WBC champion, that's a easy winnable fight for him there as well. He becomes undisputed, jumps up, and he gets that opportunity.
Just out of curiosity, Spence, as far as Jai's concerned, we all rave about him, right? But this guy that came in to fight him, came in with 10 wins, all by knockout, hadn't really thought anybody, came in and really went for it and got caught and got beaten up. But when we look at Jai's fights, they've all been... He's fought Jordan Thompson. He's fought fighters at a certain level.
Marius Breeder was a quality operator, and he boxed him twice, broke his jaw in one of those, showed a lot of character, come through some tough times in that fight himself. When he won the title, actually, 2.5 years ago, out in Australia, boxed Marius again and beat him again in another war. So he's proven, he's shown that he's got character. And I just think that this guy moving up, Alexander Usyk, is a classic example. He's shown the blueprint that the smaller guys can compete with the bigger guys and use that to their advantage.
I think we'll get the real measure of Jai when he fights Ramirez. Then you'll know, because Ramirez has done a job on Chris Billam-Smith.
He has.
Yeah.
I believe he beats Ramirez, by the way, and beats him comfortably.
Yeah. Well, this fella who is about to join us was the real star, was one of a number of real stars on the recent show over in Riyadh.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.